Welcome to the Intercut Podcast, the weekly show going over the TV, movies, and entertainment that people can't cut away from. I am your co-host, Zachary Shevich, and joining me, maybe art doesn't need a point, maybe that's why it's called art, it's Arturo Zurita.
Damn, that's the best one. 3 years we've been married, and this is the first time I've got one where I was like, wow.
Wow.
I like that one right there.
That's BoJack Horseman for you.
Yeah.
Oh, a show that we will definitely be talking about here.
Yeah. Also joining us, the Amandalorian. It's Amandathejedi.
What's up? Thanks, as always, for having me.
Oh,
Yeah, it's the third year in a row that we've got Amanda here at the midpoint of the year to talk about the best TV and movies have had to offer. These are back-to-back episodes, and on this one, we're talking TV. So if you're looking for Sonic the Hedgehog discussions, you've clicked on the wrong video. But before we get into the lists, I got a couple things that I haven't watched that I want to spotlight, some stuff that I'm going to also talk in honorable mentions. I haven't gotten around to the newest season of Better Call Saul, which I've heard nothing but amazing things about. Didn't get to see The Last Dance, which I'm kicking myself for. I have a feeling we'll talk about that later. High Fidelity, I've been hearing great things about on Hulu with Zoe Kravitz. And The Good Place's final season. I love that show, and I'm like scared to watch it, to not have any more of it to look forward to, you know?
I agree.
Fair.
I have 350 movies that I watched this year so far, so I have way more shows that I have not seen. I have too many honorable mentions. What about you, Amanda?
Oh, I have a ton. I'm so bad at watching TV shows. It's kind of like one of these, like, oh, well, I don't want to watch it as they're dropping. I'll just wait till it all comes out.
See,
then
thank you.
Once it all comes out, I'm like, I don't have 10 hours.
I've been telling Zach, I think the best place to say it is here on the TV episode. We used to always have those 21 to 24 hour, episode, 24 episodes in one season. I was like, let's cut that down to the 10, a nice miniseries.
No, it's still
They listened, and now those 10 hours seem to be dragged on. I told Zach, now I'm moving on to the 3 to 4, maybe 5 episode miniseries. Until then, that becomes a thing. And I was like, what about we do this thing called movies? 90 minutes, that's all we need. But yeah, it's getting crazy. They just found a new way to put filler in there. But there's still a lot of great stuff out there. TV has made it comfortable to be at home.
Yeah, we haven't been able to get out to the movies quite as often in 2020, but there's been a lot of really good TV shows to watch in the interim. I'll start with some honorable mentions, including Dead to Me, The Circle, Queer Eye's 5th season, and The Eddy, some shows that I really enjoyed, even though they're not quite good enough to make my top 10 so far. A couple shows that I didn't watch enough of to feel like I wanted to talk about them with authority, but that I really enjoyed and think they'd make my top 10. The Great on Hulu.
Hey.
The medieval-esque show from the same writer as The Favorite, Nicholas Hoult and Elle Fanning, really good show. Mrs. America with Cate Blanchett on Hulu. That's a limited series that has been really great so far. Search Party's 3rd season just dropped on HBO Max. I'm like 2 or 3 episodes into that and really think it's going to be a season I enjoy a lot. I love that show's mix of like murder mystery stuff with the sort of millennial skewering comedy that it has with Alia Shawkat, and then Run with Merritt Weaver, who we love, and Donald Gleason, who we also love.
Nice.
But the number one on my need to finish is I May Destroy You. I've seen 3 episodes. There's still 3 more to come. I can say with confidence that if I had seen this whole season, it'd be, if not the top of my list, then maybe number 2. It's one of the most stunning shows that I've seen all year. And Michaela Cole, both writing this show and starring in it, does so much to create this world that is both like fully lived in but focused on her situation. It's a show that is kind of about her sexual assault, but it has such a wider scope than that. And I've never seen a show that deals with such serious pain and trauma in the way that it does, also have this joyfulness and this life to it too. It really feels like a full depiction of this woman, and she's just so good in it. It's a very funny show. It's a very affecting show. Can't wait to watch more of that one. So I don't know if either of you have seen I May Destroy You, or if either of you have any ones that you wanted to mention here, or we can get right into our top 10.
I only have two. I have two. Yeah. Now that you mentioned HBO, I May Destroy You. I know this much is true. HBO's going everything with the eyes.
Yeah.
That was one that I have not been able to finish from Derek Cianfrance that he filmed at separate times to have two Mark Ruffalos together, one a little bit more heftier than the other, shot on film. I don't know how they worked all this into it. A fantastic first opening episodes that I was able to catch. I haven't wrapped up on it yet, but that's one that I would definitely add. I don't know if either of you were able to finish it. And then the other one, now that I'm blinking at it, was another HBO show. Oh, Insecure, because I'm not done with season 4 yet. But season 4 sounds like it's going to be heartbreaking. The president talked about it. It doesn't seem like it's gonna. It seems like it's gonna be a lot like a video I made last year dealing with Good Boys, Last Black Man in San Francisco. Not to get into too much spoilers, but Insecure is a fantastic show. Definitely catch up on either way.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm behind on Insecure too, but I've just been hearing that this has been a very strong season.
Right?
Yeah, I'm
Insecure.
behind on that. Yeah. Yeah, there's probably a lot of shows I haven't seen that you guys are going to mention. I'm going to be like, oh yeah, that one. Not done Westworld season 3 yet, but it's so far it was better than the second season.
That's what Zach said.
Yeah, so I have to finish that up, and then I'm kind of still because you said you keep saying top 10, but you told me top 5, so I got.
That's
for movies. If you guys want to do 10. I don't necessarily have 10 shows that I feel like are worth talking about best. Otherwise, we're gonna end up with 13 Reasons Why on this. So like another one I kind of just started watching just because I really liked how the movie was handled, and the show's pretty good, but I think it would be really good for kind of like teen audiences. Love, Victor, which is the television spinoff of Love, Simon, and I haven't finished that yet, but so far it's been really good, and it kind of takes a little bit of a different stance while still being very similar to the movie, and it still kind of has a connection to the Simon character because this kid has hit him up on Instagram, so they've kind of been DMing back and forth a little bit. So it's been interesting so far. So I think it's definitely on Hulu. No, it's on Hulu. Yeah, it's a Fox thing. But yeah, I would definitely say that's worth checking out.
Awesome. Well, I'll get us started here with my number 10. It's not exactly like a show, a series of comedy specials, but there's 3 of them, so I'll include it here. It's Middleditch and Schwartz, the Netflix improv specials that they put out earlier this year. 3 hour-long entirely improvised specials that star Ben Schwartz, who many people know from Parks and Recreation or more recently Space Force and Sonic the Hedgehog as the voice of Sonic, and Thomas Middleditch, who is of course on Silicon Valley and in a bunch of movies. These 2 guys are people who came up through UCB and improv and honed their skills at this type of long-form improvisational comedy where they get a suggestion from the audience and just expand and try and create these worlds and keep coming up with new characters. And part of what's so fun is just the chaos in the worlds they're creating, trying to keep track of who's involved in the scenes, trying to keep track of what their character names that they said 10 minutes ago even were. And because they're so funny, just as presences, it just remains charming throughout. I just really enjoy Ben Schwartz, particularly his humor, and it's a chance to get him like uncut and just going crazy for 50 minutes in 3 different specials. I really enjoyed Middleditch and Schwartz, so yeah, that's my number 10.
Nice.
I was able to catch the first episode.
Nice.
I'm pretty sure if you caught these live, hilarious.
Yeah.
Like that's one of those, I think they do a great job of, even though you're watching it on Netflix, like you could feel the way that they get the audience involved. The first episode, they're making fun of the people on the balcony because of the wedding that they're going to be a part of. That said, Schwartz is way funnier than Middleditch. Like I would put, like, I don't know how many bars you get with your Verizon LTE, but like that much more funnier than Middleditch in my opinion.
Right.
So I think that's what kept me from watching the other 2 and 3, but I wouldn't mind going back to catch them. My only thing with improv is that sometimes it gets a little lost along the way. You're trying to find them back up, but they're the only 2 up on stage.
Yeah.
Right. And that's sort of like both the charm and maybe the flaw in it. Sometimes that's really funny when you see them trying to figure it out, and sometimes they end up being a little bit stuck and looking for what the next funny bit's going to be. Again, it's weird seeing it filmed because improv is so ethereal, it's so in the moment that it feels like it needs to be a live experience, but I think it's still an entertaining watch. Yeah.
My number 10 will be a Netflix series, and Netflix has had a bunch of these. I've been saying it. We are in the digital age now. Literally can't go out. So all of entertainment and education and documentation and history comes at home. And Netflix has had a bunch of these, from History 101 to a lot of the mini doc series that they've been going on with. But Trial by Media was one that really caught my attention because it's, I want to say it's about 5, maybe 8 episodes, all talking about real life cases that were affected by the media. How the media covered, OJ, Made in America, would probably be the biggest one if it would have fit in here. But it's like, it covers a bunch of different ones. And it's got directors like the showrunner of American Vandal. So there's a nice little spin that comes with it when they're jumping between interviews and the actual, documentation that they have of one that happened on a reality show. Another one's about Blago. The governor was selling seats over here in Illinois, so I knew that one very well. But I found it to be very engaging and an interesting way to look at these cases by how, again, the media affected them. Nice. And how, it shaped how the jury was going to look at it when they see us. Again, would be another great example of how the media shaped a trial. So Trial by Media on Netflix, I'd highly recommend.
Nice, I'll check that out.
Yeah, more and more when we see fiction dealing with court cases, the media is an integral part of it, whether that's like Defending Jacob or OJ Made in America, or you mentioned just another one that
When They See Us, yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Massive to it. It's a whole episode dedicated to it.
So yeah, very interesting to get that kind of documentary perspective on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Amanda, so I guess let's jump to your number 5.
I guess I have a couple that I could mention that could go into that, because I feel like there's at least a few. Dead to Me. I guess I'll put Dead to Me on the list here. I really love the dynamic between the two characters. I always forget how much I love Linda Cardellini until I see her in something.
I never do.
You never do. I don't anymore. It hit a point because, for a while, it's like, oh damn, that Velma. Oh damn, that's the girl. That's Freaks and Geeks. She always just pops up in these random roles as like the mom or the wife, but like in something like this where she really gets the chance to shine on her own. It's so good, and like Christina Applegate is also fantastic. There's just such good performances from both people, and I do enjoy what they managed to kind of keep up with the second season. So definitely a recommended.
Did you like it more than season 1?
I don't think I liked it more, but I feel, I don't think I liked it more. I do need to go back through it. I have a friend who's like completely obsessed with it. I think she's watched the whole thing like maybe 20 times since the second season dropped. Wow. Now she just I don't know what it is. Every time she tells, she's like, oh, by the way, this is happening again. And it's just like, Dead to Me.
Just watching Dead to Me.
She just cut her bangs again to look like Linda.
Oh, she's looking just like the characters?
She's looking like Linda. It's really good, and it's an easy watch too. Like it's not it deals with some like serious stuff, but it's an easy watch. It's not something that you
highly bingeable.
Very bingeable. Yes, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, definitely.
Dope dark comedy. Season 1, I still believe, has the best performances of that year came from them in season 1.
Oh yeah,
and season 2 is still great. It's funny. It's got really great reveals and twists and stuff,
and leaves it on.
Maybe just a little bit more rushed, in my opinion. I feel like Netflix tried turning it over.
Yeah,
we talked about it a little bit on a previous intercut. Maybe the plot wasn't quite as engaging as it was in the first season, but it's that dynamic between Linda Cardellini and Christina Applegate that really keeps you there and makes it so charming and fun to go with them on their misadventures.
Absolutely, I would agree.
All right, so Dead to Me season 2, good pick. My number 9 is a show that we also talked about a little bit on Intercut, based on a movie called Skate Kitchen. It's Crystal Mosel's Betty.
Woo!
It's a really cool show just about a group of young women who are navigating New York City and doing it on skateboards and in skate parks. It's a mostly male-dominated world, but they have they're carving out a niche and starting this girls group in the show. And I think it's this really interesting route in to get these kind of slice of life stories. To me, it's almost like HBO redoing the idea of girls, but maybe with more relatable and a more diverse set of characters. But you have Crystal Moselle, who takes this really fly on the wall kind of style, and it really lends to the idea that you're just kind of hanging out at the skate park with them. And again and again, we see movies return to skaters for whatever reason. It's just a very captivating world. and it's no different here, especially because you get a little bit of a different perspective than like the usual Skater Bros. It's I was really into this world, and I think it's only a 6-episode first season. It serves as kind of an introduction to a lot of these people, but I think where it ends up by its 6th episode really sets the show in motion and makes me very excited for the 2nd season, of which it was recently renewed for. So we know we'll be getting that. So I'm excited for the future of Betty. For now, it's at my number 9 spot.
Yeah, that would be on my list as well here. I would put that on that as well. I really like the movie a lot, and I feel like the show's really extending on the stuff that I like the most versus like the stuff that I wasn't necessarily as interested in. So I'm really liking that, and I just love the characters and like who they are as actors and how that reflects their characters in the show too. Just I really liked it. Yeah.
My number 9 is sticking with HBO. But it's McMillion's, the Sundance documentary that people were able to binge all 4 or 5 hours, however much it was, about the scandal that happened throughout the 90s, I think, maybe even the 80s. Pretty much it follows these Uncle Jerrys that are like manipulating all of the pieces, the literal pieces, dealing with the Monopoly scam that happened a while ago, and how they were able to just start a whole ring about it that goes into not just the FBI investigating it and the winners, but also the plant that prints these out, the pieces to actually put onto the products, but then also how they lured people in. And it just gets crazier and crazier. It's surprisingly a lot funnier than I thought it was going to be. But then that comedy gets juxtaposed in the later episodes with some like really dark stuff and people who were actually hurt by this. While you had this goofy FBI agent trying to retell you everything and how he got super into the role, which I think was like the introduction to it was how this FBI group pretended to be the people who go film you to say congratulations, what are you going to do with that money? And that's how they were able to start cracking down the case. I would highly recommend it. It's hilarious. And I'm really liking the documentaries that are split up into these stories because you're able to cover more ground, not have to rush things. But at the same time, I felt this one had very little filler as well, which is a thumbs up, unlike a lot of Netflix ones.
Yeah, it's a really intriguing mystery and crime ring that they uncover, but it's matched with these very eccentric characters, particularly that FBI agent. So it's a very interesting documentary. Again, one that we was at Sundance and then came out on HBO. So McMillions, good choice at number 9. Amanda, what else you got?
So another one I liked that was on Amazon. I don't think it was quite as good as I expected that it was going to be, but I still enjoyed it, and it was really easy and fast to get through for me at least. Hunters on Amazon Prime, which is kind of
Al Pacino, right?
Yeah, and
Logan Lerman.
Logan Lerman. Is it Logan
Percy
Lerman?
Jackson himself. Is it not?
Is it Logan Lerman or is it the other one? It is Logan. No, yeah, it's Logan. There's Logan Lerman, and then there's the other kid.
Lerman Logan.
Yep, that's I always get two of them confused.
No, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, because there's another. Yeah, they look exactly
it's the other one. So this is the Perks of Being a Wallflower Kid. It is. Yeah. Okay. So it's Logan Lerman, Percy Jackson. So it's basically a kind of like they're hunting Nazis is essentially it, and it's basically after the war is done and some of these people have managed to stay concealed in America down the road, and it's just kind of this winding thing that he ends up getting pulled into because his grandmother was actually like a Nazi hunter, and then something happens to her that pulls him into this whole world, and I guess it's based on a number of actual real Nazi hunters that have been around through the decades, and it's all happening in New York City. I think it's worth the watch. I think that was one of the ones they were pushing pretty hard. So like if you actually managed to see a movie sometime in like January or February, you might have seen an Amazon commercial for this ahead of time, at least if you're in Canada. I think it's worth the watch. There was a lot of really good performances in it. Obviously Pacino is in it, and he did quite a good job, and there's a lot of fun.
Amazon does this interesting thing, and they did it with The Boys as well, where it's like they know they're going to get flack for what they're covering, but they make it as bloody as possible, and it hits like the same beats in that first episode for The Boys and the first episode for Hunters. Yeah. Both have like Garrett, this is the tone you're in for.
Yeah, exactly. And I like it when they set
I get to finish this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. This also got a lot of flack, though. All the controversy that it got from the like a bunch of survivors came out, or like families of the survivors, because of the chess scene. I won't spoil what the chess scene is,
you're right.
but I remember that getting a lot of flack for it. And
yeah.
they were like, "Hey, it's fiction. What you gonna do about it?" I was like, "All right."
Yeah,
all right,
I didn't see any of the controversy because I think I'd kind of just watched this fairly self-contained and then never ended up talking about it, so I didn't do that extra step in that. But no, I'll have to look into it.
Yeah.
This one is because I know Seth Rogen did The Boys, if I'm not mistaken.
The Boys,
this was Jordan Peele, right?
He's involved.
Yeah, Jordan helped produce.
Yeah, he's producing. Yeah. There's a lot of producers, though. Like a lot. There's like 10, I think. So, but he's one of them, and they definitely used him in the marketing. So.
Yeah. All right, interesting. Hunters, we gotta catch up with that one as well. My number 8 is a show that's back for its 4th season on Netflix, animated comedy. F is for Family, the show created by Bill Burr and starring Bill Burr, also with the voice of Laura Dern, the voice of Justin Long. It's this throwback to the 1970s, and the thing that I kind of enjoy about it is sort of like a weird way of advertising it, is that all of the regressive qualities of 1970s society are kind of turned up and made fun of in a way, just how okay people were with a lack of feminism in the household, or racism being abounded. I think this season takes on that stuff and also has a really intriguing storyline involving the Bill Murphy character's father, played by Jonathan Banks, who shows up and he has these memories of his father being this oppressive asshole, and then he shows up and he's like the perfect grandpa. And the way that the season plays out that dynamic, I think, is really interesting. Ends in a very gut-wrenching way, but also it has plenty of laughs this season. I really loved the episode that focused on Rosie, another way that they've kind of expanded this world as they continue to kind of give you that Simpsons-esque sort of pulling out, so you get the picture of this entire town. So I really enjoy F is for Family. I think it's got a lot of laughs, and it's also a very interesting world that they're trying to create there. So it's my recommendation at number 8.
You've been pro that show for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see a lot
you.
of people talking about it, but it's funny. Bill Burr, it's got his sense of humor to it, and the fact that Laura Dern is on it and nobody talks about that, given how much everybody loves Laura Dern, is surprising to me. But I dig that show.
Nice.
For me, we're at 8, right?
Yeah.
My number 8 is Betty. I really enjoyed Betty. I liked it even more than Skate Kitchen.
I think
in Skate Kitchen, the real life girls who are now the actors playing a version or so of themselves in the movie. I think after starring in the movie, doing the whole press thing through all the festivals and stuff, then being able to have a bigger budget and a longer time. On top of that, also having the director, I want to make sure I get her name, also directing every single episode of the series.
Crystal Moselle.
Yeah. I think it's fantastic because originally she had met the girls at like the subway, and she wanted to make like a short with them that would eventually be like a doc. Ended up being a movie, ended up being a TV show, and now we're in that era where, Parasite's going to get a TV show for HBO. The Last of Us is going to get a miniseries. Every movie is turning into a miniseries. It's the way to go. 2 hours is not enough. Got to cut that up into segments. So I think it's one of the better ones as we enter this new era of turning everything into its own like TV version. It used to be TV. Are you going to get a movie? Now it's you got a movie. Is it going to get a TV show? Yeah. And this is one of the best examples of it not being a cash cow, but actually having the characters be more fleshed out. Like Zach said, when you get to that 6th episode, you realize, oh, for sure it's a hangout show. Like in the vein of mid-90s and the doc you really love, which I always blank on the name of it, that didn't win the Oscar, but was nominated for the Oscar.
Minding the Gap?
Yeah.
Minding the Gap. But starts to really get into their lives and the different characters that they cross over with in New York City. And I can't wait to see what they do with the 2nd season. I think it's going to be really dope. And I love that that HBO specifically is doing these miniseries where they keep the same director for every episode.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was really good, for sure. Yeah.
Awesome.
It's me again, I think.
Yeah, Amanda.
So yeah, me and my not numbered number. This is a weird pick because there's only one episode of it out yet, but I've read the book that it's based on, And
It's that good.
It's that good. Well, I think it's going to be good. Maybe it won't be, but it's a documentary based off of a true crime fiction, I'll Be Gone by Dark, which is about the Golden State Killer. Yeah. And it's actually the original story, I'll Be Gone by Dark, is actually written by Patton Oswalt.
Michelle McNamara.
Yeah. Patton Oswalt's deceased wife, sadly. So she actually passed away before they found the Golden State Killer because, spoiler alert, they found him. I think it was about 2 years ago now. And it just became this like very weird thing that how did they not know it was him? But he was just one of these people that it was kind of similar to kind of like Bundy and the Zodiac, and not the Zodiac, but Bundy, where they couldn't tell it was all one person because it was happening across such a great range, and they escalated in weird ways. Like first it was just break and enters, then it was assaults, then it was murders. So it just kind of really fleshed out from there. So I usually really like the way that HBO handles these docu-series, so I'm assuming that this is going to be good. It's going to be 6 total episodes, but it won't be done until I think August. But I really liked how they handled the first episode and set it up, and I'm really into this kind of like true crime stuff, and I'm kind of interested to see in the direction that it goes.
Yeah, it's a crazy story, and one that, Michelle McNamara, before her death, was able to put together a lot of the pieces for. Like, usually you don't see the police thank independent journalists for their work, but she's been credited up and down for her work in putting the pieces together and finding this guy who also used to be a cop. It's an incredible story. You
didn't know that? Art didn't know.
Like you said,
I don't know anything about this show.
Oh yeah, no, that's like the real crazy thing is that once they finally found this guy, it was like he was a cop.
Yep.
And she had managed to find so much information just by like, she was basically like, she was just there. It was always just that like, I'm almost there. I'm almost there. I almost have a name, because you're finding all these little pieces and stuff. And then finally found him.
Interesting. That's dope. And this is a documentary. It's not like it's not a narrative.
No, it's a documentary.
It's going to be a 6-part show. Just started on HBO.
Yeah, just this past weekend.
Dude, HBO in their eyes, man. I may destroy you. I'll be gone in the dark. I know this much is true.
Yeah. Joining a good crop of shows there, definitely. So yeah, I'm also excited to check out more of that show once it's finally on. My number 7 is Briarpatch, the only show on USA that I've checked out this year, and the only show on USA that'll be on my list, I think, on any of our lists this year. It's a show about a woman who goes back to her hometown after the death of her sister to discover a corrupt infrastructure that has led to her sister's death, and a tangled web of corrupt policemen and mayors and government officials all working to suppress this instance in order to keep their own interests safe. It's got that like hard-boiled detective vibe, but something that happens in the first episode, I think, is a good sort of indicator for the tone of the show, because yes, she's back to see old acquaintances and figure out what happened to her sister, but simultaneously there was an escape at the zoo, and the town is littered with zoo animals, including giraffes and tigers, and they shoot a kangaroo in one of the first shots of this show. So it's got that surreal quality to it too. It's like a thin edge of Twin Peaks to this like Justified murder mystery vibe. Okay. It's a cool show. I really dug its first season. It's got some great performances, particularly from J.R. Ferguson as Jake Spivey. So I'd highly recommend checking it out.
I've seen the first episode of that. It was at TIFF. They actually did like a special screening at TIFF. So I've seen the first episode, and I do like it. So I'm assuming like maybe we can make that my 10th, but I've only seen one episode, so I don't know. But
and it stars Rosario Dawson.
What?
Yeah.
Rosario Dawson. Yeah, so good. Yeah, so they had done like a special screening of like the first episode at TIFF, which was pretty cool. I
thought this was a BBC show, dude. I don't know why.
Briarpatch.
Briarpatch. That's what I thought it was. I was like, we got a remake.
It kind of sounds like one though. Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah. Interesting. 10 episodes. Yeah, that'd be one I want to catch up on.
Art, your number 7?
My number 7, still on HBO. I'm sorry.
No.
High Maintenance.
It's good.
High Maintenance had its final season.
Yeah.
and it was great. I'm gonna miss it. I don't know what else to say. I feel like if you've watched Intercut, you've heard us talk about High Maintenance. It's a show that, you know, it deals with weed, but at the same time, as it takes place in New York, and I think the later seasons has the guy going elsewhere. This was a series by, and you know the guy's name. What's the guy's name?
Ben Sinclair.
He had this as a Vimeo short series, just like Broad City was its own online series, and then it got picked up.
He and his ex-wife, Katya Blickfield, who's still on the show, even though they have since divorced.
Bro, that explains that moment in season 4. Oh my goodness. Oh. This is my number 3 show of the year. No, I'm just kidding. It's still in the same spot, and I think season 5 was fantastic because it starts playing with just, different perspectives. It's like, you know what? Forget it. We're going to cover this immigrant who's working over here and hasn't discovered himself because there's a whole language barrier, doesn't even know how to talk to anybody else. We're going to cover some crazy, like, just people who work in jobs that you would have not even known. I think it's a very interesting series that bounces between not necessarily changing the dynamic of the show, but it's like the type of storytelling that they tell varies depending on the new person that you're following. So if this person deals with, like, it wasn't marionettes, but like these different puppets and stuff like that, it's going to be told through his zany perspective, right? And through there you intercut with all of these other stories that are happening and how the guy comes into play. And I think that's a very dope way of telling the story. And I wish I hope to see more stories like that, you know, because I think a lot of people just think it's a weed show, and while it is, it's really like showcasing all of these different. I'm just thinking of all the different stories that were in there of like having a child who's a doll. I don't know. There's just so much going on with it, and every single season has something dope to offer, and now it's all wrapped up with the 5th and final.
Well, it was the 4th season that aired, and they haven't confirmed that they're not going to be back. So maybe we will get another season on HBO at some point, although it didn't necessarily get high ratings, so not so sure whether or not it's going to come back for a 5th season. But that 4th season does have it has a really killer ending too, one that would be a satisfying close to this series, giving us a little bit more insight into the guy, the mostly unnamed character who floats in and out of the show, is as close to a main character as we get. But yeah, it's that perspective, it's that shifting perspective that High Maintenance does that makes it just in a league of its own in TV. It's able to tell such a diverse set of stories because it has this floating perspective that gives you all different perspectives in New York, sometimes outside of New York, loosely connected just through either,
sometimes
marijuana related to the guy, or not even just one of the things that's most fun is when you just see the guy bump up into somebody, and it's not even related to his like deliveries or what have you. But
mini anthologies within.
I think this season had the episode where they followed like the lifespan of a lighter, and it's just one of those like crazy ideas that's so beautifully done through High Maintenance. So that's a show that I love. That's a show that I have at number 4 on my top 10.
Okay,
so, I haven't seen this season yet, so I couldn't include it, but it's good.
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
A show we all recommend, definitely. My number 6 is the 3rd season of Ozark, the Jason Bateman-led crime show that takes a financial advisor into the Missouri Ozarks to do money laundering for the Mexican cartel. It's one of those shows that brings you into a world that is so fascinating that just sometimes being able to inhabit that world and follow the ups and downs that they experience is just thrilling in a way that Breaking Bad is also, like, at its best was thrilling. I don't know if this has the moral complexity of a show like Breaking Bad, but it does have the story propulsion that Breaking Bad did. The way in which the dynamics between the characters are constantly evolving because of either somebody getting double-crossed or somebody trying to take advantage of a situation. And having spent now 3 years with these characters, seeing Laura Linney's character in particular develop into this really savvy, negotiator and criminal in her own right, seeing Julia Garner's development as Ruth.
Emmy winner.
It's just been really, really engaging and cool. Particularly this season was great because the addition of Laura Linney's brother's character, who becomes this agent of chaos in this sort of way by the end of the season, without giving anything specific away. So yeah, I think this was one of, if not the best season of Ozark, then the second best season of Ozark so far.
They're wrapping it up. I think they just announced today season 4 will be the final season of Ozark. So that's going to be interesting. I haven't been able to finish 3, but in the same vein, what they're doing with Laura Linney, oh man,
so good. What
they're doing with her is something special. But now I'm excited to catch up, and I'm really excited to see what Bateman does next, because he's not only handling the show, but getting the recognition, and he got awarded with the best director as well at the Emmys, I want to say. So that's just going to, I think it's going to elevate it to see what's that next thing that he has, that he's been wanting to work on. But he's been killing it with Ozark, so that's dope.
Yeah. I'm just looking this up now. It's going to be a 2-part, 14-episode final season.
It's dope. Like Breaking Bad, in the vein of Breaking Bad, the first show to really start doing that with the Part A, Part B. Yeah. We are on number 7, correct?
Yes.
All right.
6.
Yes. My number 6 actually comes from Hulu, but this bad boy should have been on Disney Plus. Love, Victor is great.
I liked it a lot.
It is a beautiful story, while also leaving you in shambles by the end of it. I really liked the movie Love, Simon. I said it was damn near a masterpiece, except for the fact that they changed what happened in the book. And you could even tell that the TV series is trying to fix some of the stuff. Right at the opening of the TV series is, Simon, I'm writing to you and I love your family, but screw you for having everything picture perfect. Granted, does the show. Go ahead, intercut.
There's one thing I think the movie actually does significantly better than the book. The friend reactions. In the book, they're the ones that are just kind of like, oh yeah, it's okay that you basically just screwed us over for the past few months. We forgive you. In the movie, it actually tries to hold some accountability, being like, I get that this is a horribly difficult time for you, and I understand, and I wouldn't try to force you into a situation where you didn't feel comfortable doing something, but you didn't have to screw all of us over in the process. That makes you a bad person. That gets handled so well in the movie. It's handled so terribly in the book, in my opinion.
Amanda, when you catch the second half of Love, Victor, the series on Hulu, which should have been on Disney Plus, you are going to be like, what?
That's probably why I'm not it's not on my list yet, because I'm only 4 or 5 episodes in, so I'm not there yet. So, but I liked it a lot.
It's such a feel good show.
Yeah.
And you're with it. You're loving the friends that he has. Victor has moved from Texas to where Love, Simon takes place.
Atlanta.
And he's actually going to the same school.
Georgia.
So in Atlanta, he's messaging Simon, who now lives in New York. And it's a beautiful way of not only having Nick Robinson as producer, but also he's in the world. They're writing to each other all the time. And the way that they just develop the story, I think the writing is fantastic.
Yeah.
For all of the characters, the women in the love comma series are always going to get screwed over, is what it seems like. But it leaves it on a cliffhanger that is a beautiful cliffhanger. It has me very excited for season 2. It's got bits of the storyline and infidelity that happens in Atypical. It has a little bit of Freaks and Geeks with how they're coming to terms of knowing each other. It has some characters that you're on the edge about, then disappoint you. Some characters you're on the edge about, and then surprise you, and you're like, yo, you're a dope character. Nice. And I was very invested in this series, and I truly believe that they should have kept it on Disney Plus, because the target demographic that they were going for, and considering the fact that people have Disney Plus and there's no new shows, it should have remained there. I know that there's aspects that they do cover on it, and they said it was more a future thing. They finally came out and said it's because they want to have more love scenes in the future seasons that's why they want to keep it on Hulu. We'll see, because they're still 16 years old.
I heard it was the drinking stuff too. I heard it was the drinking stuff too, that they were just drinking, and that wasn't the negative effects of that were not the focus. It was just teenagers partying, and there's no consequences.
That's what I thought too. And then I remembered The Simpsons takes place at the Duff Factory, and that's on Disney Plus, so I don't buy it.
But it was already made, I don't know.
My own personal
Disney's been doing weird stuff though, but either way,
Disney's weird.
Yeah.
But Love, Victor, highly recommended.
I've liked it a lot so far.
Very easy to watch, super brisk, and I think it does a lot of stuff that the movie didn't handle a lot better, and it brings in the movie aspect and really does feel, like we were saying, got the movie, now you got the TV show, and they're perfect counterparts to each other.
Agreed.
All right, good pick at number 6 there. My number 5 is a documentary show on Netflix One of the ones that was early in the year, a bit of a sensation on Netflix, following cheerleaders at Navarro College.
Oh, baby.
It's the show Cheer. It's a really gorgeously photographed show about this cheerleading squad and following their coach and the different members of the squad as they prepare for the championships and deal with the hardships and physical strains of cheerleading. It's something that I wouldn't necessarily have even had such an interest in, if not handled so beautifully in the way that they tell the rise and fall of different members of this team, and they show you the physicality, the raw physicality it takes to get flipped up in the air and get caught and occasionally fall on somebody's head or fall on the mat after being launched.
Yeah.
The sequences in which you see these like less than 100-pound girls getting injured over and over and over are just grueling. But it's documented in such a interesting way. The way that you really feel. You're like right there with them. They get so up close to the action. It's such a visceral way of showing the story. I was really entranced by it, both on a filmmaking level and just getting to know these characters. I thought it was one of my genuine surprises this year. One of the best shows I've seen.
Nice. I'll have to check it
I
out.
agree. That should have been on my list too. That's how much I agree. So even though I'm not going to
Damn.
fix my numbers here, what better recommendation than like, damn, that should have been on my list too.
Yeah.
'Cause
Right,
I love that.
right.
That came out when we were at Sundance, and all the interviews during Sundance when they were asking the filmmakers, "What are you watching?" And every person who had a movie at Sundance was like, "Bro, Cheer."
Yeah.
So if you have not caught Cheer, it is fantastic. That is a documentary series
I gotta
done right
watch
on
it.
Netflix.
Okay.
They handled that
Greg
beautifully.
Whitley or Whiteley is the one who directed it. It's very, very well done.
It's fantastic.
Art, what's your number 5?
My number 5, sticking to Netflix, Gentefied. This was a Sundance movie the first year that I went, and I did not catch it. Now they turned it into a series. Obviously, it's like gente, which is Spanish for people, but that is also, mixing it in with the gentrified side of it. The one thing right off the bat of the show that it takes place in California, and it's about like this taco shop that they're running, and it's based off of the grandma, and they're very traditional, again, keeping with they don't want to change everything. It's all about the tacos, but the neighborhood's changing and things getting a little bit more expensive. So do you need to change the tacos to be like vegan tacos for the people who are moving in, and is that compromising what the shop is supposed to be to begin with? And it's a very interesting dynamic, because while you do have the old heads, the grandpa and all the tios and tias who are there, at the same time you have all the younger generation who's also conflicted with like, nah, this is the new, and they're like, nah, I believe with Pops. And it's I found to be a very interesting series. They do a beautiful thing, which is it's half Spanish, half English, and Spanglish. The parents will be talking in Spanish, the kids are responding in English, and they don't sugarcoat it. Many times they'll be like, why is this scene being done in English if I thought that person didn't speak it? Or why would they be speaking Spanish here if they're over there?
Feels authentic to those
Yeah.
characters.
I thought they did it pretty well.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it even more than On My Block, which is usually the big Mexican show on Netflix. I thought it was even better than their season 3, which bamboozled us. Gentefied, highly recommend it, and I'm very excited to see what they do with season 2.
Nice.
All right. Good choice at number 5. Amanda, let's get into your top 5.
Cool. My top 5. So in my 5th place, I've got Feel Good right now,
Oh, okay.
which was a Netflix series, tight 6 episodes, short ones.
Nice.
So like,
All right.
yeah,
Okay.
24, 25-minute episodes.
I'm peaked.
Yeah, so it's basically about a Canadian comedian, and she is in England. I'm pretty sure, in England, and it's just one of those other ones. Lisa Kudrow's her mom. It's just one of like she's just She just pops up everywhere as the mom, and then
Also of Space Force.
yeah, exactly. So basically, the whole first episode is basically it starts with her giving a comedy routine, and then there's this girl in the audience, and then they end up talking for hours after the show, and then they get together, and then there's this kind of twofold thing with the girl she's met who's from England. This is the first girl she's ever been with. Is very scared about telling her family about it and stuff like that. But they kind of do the whole like lesbian U-hauling thing where they almost immediately like the guy even makes a joke. He's like, "Hey, are you coming back tonight?" And she's like, "I don't know, man. I'm like kind of in the middle of something." He's like, "Okay, see you in 6 months." But so like they have all these nice moments in the first episode. Seems like it's this beautiful budding romance, but then you get into the stuff of, okay, she's not ready to tell her family and her friends, and then you find out that the comedian is actually a recovering drug addict. So, and that kind of turns into this whole thing of like, do addicts replace those addictions with different addictions? So does she replace her drug addiction with people addictions? So do you just get really into the romance, and then everything's so heightened in that? But it's really funny. It's got some really heartbreaking moments, like really good performances. I'm not actually even sure. I didn't even look who's in it, but let me check.
Is this on Netflix?
Yeah, it's a Netflix show.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay.
Here we go.
Check this one out.
Yeah, so the actors... Okay, yeah, okay, I was wondering. So the main character... I always kind of wonder when it's like the main character is a comedian. I always wonder if they're actually... So yeah, the main character's name is May, and the actress is Mae Martin, who is a Canadian comedian and actor. So it's like very...
Makes sense.
Yeah, so... yeah.
A little semi-autobiographical.
Yeah, absolutely. So I liked it. I think it's like I said, it's a really easy and fast watch. So yeah, just no.
Reminds me of like Rami.
Yeah, it was one of those Netflix shows that kind of came and went earlier in the year. Do you think it's going to come back for a second season after it had sort of like a brief 6-episode first season run?
That's what I'm not sure. I just kind of watched it super recently when I was trying to catch up on stuff, and I was like, oh, that's really short. Right. That'll be easy to catch up on. So I hadn't actually looked into whether or not it's been picked up.
Renewed?
I hope it has, because it leaves it to like be picked up again. So just hoping.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see more of it as some of these shows in their first seasons are really laying the groundwork for future episodes. Like that's how I felt about Betty. That you kind of establish the world and then
now you
really
can actually
get
into
it. Absolutely. You want to
season
see them
3.
kind of like get to it. Yeah.
Cool.
Hopefully.
All right, Feel Good, Amanda's number 5 choice. I talked about my number 4 is High Maintenance, a great show. Check it out, HBO Max, whatever you got. It's on there. A lot of good episodes on there. I think they still got the Vimeo episodes on there too. So you can watch some short ones, watch some long ones. Good stuff. Art, what's your number 4?
BoJack, season 6, the finale. I'll talk about it more when you bring it up. Yeah. But very enjoyable show. It's one of those endings that doesn't wow you, but it sits with you. And I think when a couple of years pass by and I go back and watch the show, it's going to be a perfect bookend to what the whole show was about. So
BoJack has never really been a show about easy resolutions for complicated questions, and I think that would be disingenuous to the show for it to end on like a everybody's happy kind of final note. So like you said, I think as the years go on, that finale is going to continue to be really intriguing and say a lot of good things.
I'll just say I'll mention one scene. The assistant, what's her name's assistant? Was it Elijah or what was his name? Jonah. Damn, man. Damn. That's all I'll say. Damn.
Yeah. Wow.
Good scene.
Amanda, what's your number 4?
Sex Education. That's what I'm going to go with.
Season 2.
Yeah,
right.
Season 2. Not as good as Season 1, but I still like the direction they took with it. I really like the characters that they've fleshed out in this world, and I think we kind of got a little bit more from, we got a little bit more nuance to certain characters, a little bit more background on certain people. There are certain situations I don't think they handled super well, but it almost seemed like they handled them kind of poorly so that they could go back to it later and fix
Setups.
it, so, or like at least address it again. I think it's a really good show. It's got obviously it's got like the British comedy because that's what it is. But I think it's one of those shows that when people start watching, they're surprised by how much they actually end up enjoying. I remember when the second season dropped, suddenly my whole Twitter was flooded with, oh my God, Sex Education's so good. Like, how did I miss the first season? So I think that's the mark of a good show when like the second season can come around and that rejuvenates the interest if they had missed it the first time around. So yeah that'll be my number 4.
Yeah, I like the first season of that show. I just haven't gotten around to the second one, so glad to hear that it's got your approval. Right,
Yeah.
so a number 4 for Amanda is Sex Education.
Yeah.
My number 3, I suspect it will be on at least one other list here. It's Devs, the FX on Hulu show from Alex Garland. I'll save some of the talk because I'm sure we can get into a lot of things with this show. The thing that really just jumps out to me, especially in comparison to a lot of the shows that we've talked about, a lot of the shows that we will talk about, which are all great shows, there's just some really creative and daring filmmaking going on in the show. They do some stuff with cold opens where they are so ambiguous and
Scared
they kind of
the crap out of me.
Yeah, they're
they
unsettling.
unsettle you, but they kind of pull you into the world and set the table for this mind-bending show where you have to question the reality of what's happening. Alex Garland's got such a unique approach to the way that he does sci-fi, and here tackling questions of determinism and future selves. He makes no exception. There's just some sequences, particularly I'll shout out when he doubles up on people, which I think is vague enough that you'll know what I talk about if you've seen the show.
That's good.
It's just it's so cool, but it also makes you think. Like, it serves such a purpose for the story. He's just one of the most interesting filmmakers we have working right now, and it's such a privilege to get to spend 7 hours in a world he's made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. On IMDb, the thing it said 2020 to 2020. And they don't even they show you the episodes, but they just tell you it's a 6 hour and 42-minute runtime or something like that. As if it's pitching you as a movie in parts. Yeah. I love it. We will be talking about it in just a little bit.
Yeah. Just because you brought that up, I hate the thing that people say, like, oh, it's a 10-hour movie. Oh, it's an 8-hour movie. It applies here. Mm. I don't need you to tell me that the Falcon and Winter Soldier show is going to be an 8-hour movie. Just make a TV
don't
show.
Don't do Anthony Mackie like that. He's going through a lot right now. Okay. this
is
one
a 7-hour movie.
Yeah, easily.
Yeah. Stunning.
Art, your number 3.
My number 3 is none other than a show you said you didn't catch, but it was all the rave this summer when the NBA was out. All the sports was out. The Last Dance. Name me something else that's been memed like this show has.
Recommended by Corey Findley as well.
13 Reasons Why.
Not even. I would
That's
say
fair. You're
one,
right. Not quite.
Michael Jordan's going to be pretty upset that you didn't put him at number 1.
I don't care. Okay, hey, if you've seen the show, that's all Michael Jordan needed. And then he wants for it. This is the show all about Michael Jordan. Really, it is not The Last Dance of the Chicago Bulls, even though they claim it is. It is the Michael Jordan show that was greenlit. He, like Kanye West, like many of the greatest of our time, records everything. And he did so on that final season for the Chicago Bulls. Who don't know, they had 6 championships. This is not 6. They had 6 championships. And on the 6th one, which was considered the final dance, because Phil Jackson always had a title for every single one of his seasons. This one being the final dance because it was literally going to be the last season that they were all going to be together. And it was the moment that LeBron James, I want to say 2015-16, when he won his championship for Cleveland, that Jordan greenlit it.
Yeah.
He said, let's start editing this. And it's not perfect in any way, shape, or form, but man, does it get you motivated. It talks about all of the ups and downs that he went through, of being the greatest of all time. And
answers also some lingering questions like about the flu game and different relationships that they had on the team. Something that he's long avoided talking about was his gambling, which they go into on the show. I've heard
very little, but I think they could have covered a lot more. I think he could have given a lot more of the other players. There's like a Scottie Pippen episode. By that I mean it's 20 minutes, and then the other 45 are about Jordan. But
shouts to Horace Grant.
It is a fantastic. Poor Horace. Horace got it bad in the show. But it if you know nothing about it, this is the perfect episode to get in because it's not just about basketball and the title. It is about the brand that became Jordan.
Right.
With the shoes, with the movies, with McDonald's, with the Olympics, with what would become basketball and how it got changed from the 80s to the 90s. I think it's beautiful and really the model of an athlete. What Jordan ended up becoming as an athlete and as a role model, I think is beautifully broken down. There will obviously be other stories to be told once Jordan is gone. and I can't wait for those as well. But as the authorized Jordan one, I think it was beautiful. It's got a lot of memes, it's got a lot of emotion in it, and I would highly, highly, highly recommend it.
So are you saying you're wishing for the death of Michael Jordan?
I never said that, but I am wishing for the unauthorized documentary because it'll definitely cover a lot of the stuff that also got memed in the show that wasn't really covered. But I was for certain that the flu game, which ended up being a pizza, I was for certain it was the Main Street Pizza Oodles and Noodles or whatever at Park City. But it wasn't. It was a Pizza Hut, supposedly. So we'll see.
Damn.
Yeah.
What about you, Amanda?
We'll also see about the veracity of that story because that one I've heard has been picked.
It has been picked to death.
Yeah.
Anyway, definitely want to catch up with The Last Dance. I'm glad that you liked it as much as you did. But Amanda, what is your number 3?
What We Do in the Shadows, season 2.
Hey!
I'm a huge Waititi fan, and Jermaine obviously as well. But I loved the movie. I'm really big on mockumentaries in general. It's like a genre that I really didn't think I would like at all, but I absolutely fell in love with. And the show really manages to keep up the energy from the movie. Like, you might not think they'd be able to, but they do. So it's essentially the story. It's a mockumentary happening in a supernatural world. It's like following these main vampires, but there's a bunch of other ones too. Like, there's one episode this season where they do like a ghost seance to try to get rid of the ghosts, but it just brings more ghosts. And it's like, if you look at any of the individual plot points, it seems like the most ridiculous thing, which it is, but it's amazing at the same time. Like, it's just so funny. But yeah,
I love the movie. I was able to catch half of the first season. I haven't been able to finish it yet. Do you think one season's better than the other? Better than the movie? Which one do you prefer out of the 3 that we got so far?
I think I still prefer the movie, but I want to go back through. So I didn't rewatch season 1 before going into season 2 here. So I feel like I'd have to kind of like sit and watch them all together. But like, that's almost the beauty sometimes of a mockumentary, is that like so many episodes, it's just kind of flowing in like a really smooth way. So like certain seasons just kind of like, you know, I can pick out what my favorite seasons of The Office are, but there's episodes way later on that are some of my favorites or have some of the best cold opens or something like that. And it's kind of, I would say that's probably going to apply here if it continues going. It's just as, the quality is just as high. Like, if you liked season 1, if you like the movie, you're gonna continue just liking everything that they do.
Yeah.
It's FX, right?
Yeah.
FX has been on
Hulu,
one.
FX.
FX has been on one.
They've been doing good.
Hulu should be happy.
Yeah.
They have some good stuff.
My number 2 is What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
It's just such a fun, quirky world to hang out in. The way that they kind of take commonly known lore and myths or whatever about vampires or supernatural and skewer them or make them silly, whether it's the way they yell bat before transforming into a bat or something like that. It's just such a funny world, and the actors too, Matt Berry, Natasha Dimitriou, and Carvin Novak are so good on this show. Also shouts out to Mark Proshkin, who plays Colin Robinson. Just the concept of an energy vampire too is so funny, and it's one of the like kind of novel ideas here that they it's more than just like the blood-sucking vampires.
They're going into like the reality of like there are people out there who identify as energy vampires, so it's like it's cool. Like, it's go, let them go. It's cool.
That's funny.
Yeah, so like the way they incorporate all these different ideas and is so funny. And like you're saying, Amanda, I think with a show like this, which is such an easy hangout, sometimes it's like there's a certain episode will stand out, but it does feel like such an easy hang that it does blend a little bit. This season in particular, the Jackie Daytona episode was absolutely hysterical, as well as the episode which brought back Nick Kroll's character and about the whole squabble with the hat. But there's just so much funny stuff happening. You still have Taika, I think, showing up to direct some. I know Jermaine Clement wrote and directed some episodes this season, so you have him. Also, Stephanie Robinson, who is one of Atlanta's best writers, writes on this show too. So you got a lot of comedic talent here, and both in front of and behind the camera. It's one of the most pleasant shows out there, so I highly, highly recommend What We Do in the Shadows.
Agreed.
I'm gonna have to binge it tonight then. Sticking with FX. Devs, all I will say is, you ever watch a show and you can't wait to rewatch the show? That's Devs. And that's all I gotta say. Go watch Devs. Devs scared me, actually.
Des gets really scary at times. It's just uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So my number 2 now?
I'll forever be petrified of Zach Grenier breaking into my apartment. Yes. Amanda, number 2.
I'm not okay with this. Maybe a bit high, but it's just it's just like I like coming of age stories. I like superhero stuff, and this just kind of blends a lot of that kind of stuff together. And I realized that like a lot of the It kids and the Stranger Things kids just seem to get. Actually, some of them cross over because Finn's in both, but you get a lot of these. It's like they're the new It kids, you know, and they pull them from everything. But
they're literally the It kids.
Yeah, exactly. They're really the It kids, exactly. But I really do think that Sophia Lilly stands out in this. I think she does such an incredible job just with like just her emotions and dealing with that, and how that in itself is relatable to most, you know, younger teenagers as you're kind of like working through things, and how that can kind of like augment into something. Which in her case, she can't actually control it. Like she has these powers that do come on more when she's angry. And obviously that's adding a whole other level to her, just her coming of age and how she's growing and like realizing things about herself and realizing really big things about herself. And just, I really like it. It's just, it's a pretty basic premise when you look at it. But I really love how it came together as a show, and it just left me wanting more when it was done.
I mean, mind-blowing ending that they got going on.
Yeah, the ending was great. Oh my God.
Have you read the comic?
I haven't. I was going to, and then I saw...
Comic's really good.
Yeah, I've heard mixed. I was about to read it, and then everyone was like, this is bad. But I'm like, I'm assuming they're saying it's bad because it's different, and I just haven't got to it yet because it's probably something I'll end up making a video about, but closer to when season 2 is going to drop at this point.
Yeah.
So I'll probably...
I would recommend it.
Yeah.
I'm very curious to know your thoughts.
Yeah.
A little bit darker, but less Stranger Things references.
Yeah, I knew
sure.
less Stranger Things, but darker. I knew it was darker, and I think that's what threw people off. They weren't expecting it to be... kind of almost like if you compare Kick-Ass the movie to Kick-Ass the comics, it's like, oh, you thought that was dark, but then it's like way more screwed up once you get into it.
The comics don't have the MPAA.
Yeah, exactly. They just go. So,
would you compare this at all to another show that I know you had on your list last year, Umbrella Academy?
Yes, I would. I think they have very similar tone. I think there's obviously a lot of parallels between Sophia Lilly's character in this and Ellen Page's character in Umbrella Academy. Obviously it's very different. Umbrella Academy is kind of like twisted X-Men, which I'm going to be making a video about this soon because season 2 is dropping in like exactly a month. So covering that soon. But there is a lot of that kind of like just that uncertainty in the character, how that uncertainty builds into something else when you don't know what your body is doing and you can't control it, and you have people around you that are trying to get you to be a certain way and it's not really necessarily helping. And then just all the regular just confusion of being who you are. But I'd say, honestly, tonally, it feels very similar to Umbrella Academy as well. It's kind of got that like quirky, dark humor while still dealing with really serious issues, but then still bringing in levity when it needs to. And then, it does kind of have similar like big punch endings. So, yeah. All
right. Very cool. I haven't caught up with that one, but maybe I need to.
It's another quick watch.
We're into...
Yeah. So.
Cool. We're into our number ones, so I'll start us off here with my number 1 of the year so far. Not going to be a surprise to many. It's the final season of BoJack Horseman. What can we say about BoJack Horseman that I haven't said in like every best of the year TV list so far on this channel?
Since the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, Raphael Bosberg, I think, has done a really interesting thing here. He's created this very animated world, and animated both in the literal and other meaning of it that's very big. It's very broad. It's very silly at times, but he maintains this really interesting and deeply thoughtful drama to the story as well, in interrogating the BoJack character. And something that we're seeing a lot in the real world right now is this idea of what to do with these people that were beloved but have problematic pasts, and what is it like being at the center of the cancel culture or whatever you want to call it. And I think BoJack surprisingly has done some of the best work in talking about these issues and talking about the impact that people can have when they've been enabled into their bad behaviors, and what that's like, not only for the person at the center of it, but for the persons around them. And the way that it sort of brings you forward in time by the end of its last season, and sort of shows you the path that Diane and Todd and all these characters have gone on. I think it's a very beautiful ending, like we were talking about, and it may not have had some of the most classic episodes of BoJack Horseman, but I think it's just a really fitting end, one that both was funny and emotional. There's some sentimentality going on here, but I really love the show, and I'm gonna miss it.
Agreed.
I haven't finished it yet, but I'm excited too. I think it's only gotten better from the first season.
Yeah.
And there's so much to catch on the rewatches, so it's going to be super dope. Final one. As much as my list started with a bunch of HBO, it ends with Netflix with a perfect 3-season arc, Dark. Fantastic.
I gotta get
Not
to
even going
it.
to describe it because no one described it to me. They just demanded that I watched it. And it is very rare that you see creators coming in and knowing that they have 3 seasons to tell a story. Nothing more, nothing less. And it's beautiful going into a season, knowing that they know the ending and knowing that everything is already been set in motion.
It's so
Seasons 1,
refreshing.
2, and 3. It's perfect. It's great. Another show that I would say is doing a very similar thing is Russian Doll, which I know also is set out to do a 3-season arc. And I just wish that there were more like this. Dark will be known as the epitome of what it does and being the best at that. It is pinnacle sci-fi.
I will get to it.
Dark
I'm excited.
on Netflix. Must watch. Amanda.
Yeah.
Or Zach, if you have anything
No,
to
I
say
was just
about
gonna
Dark.
say, you always say that this is like the inheritor to the lost throne of complex webs of interconnected threads and different stuff going on. I gotta binge it at
Same.
some point. So.
Bro, like, you gotta
That'll
watch
be
this with a
soon.
calculator. Like,
That'll be soon.
it's crazy.
I'm excited.
Perfection.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right, Amanda, what's top of your list so far in 2020?
My number one is one you guys have both already mentioned, Devs.
Let's talk about it.
I love the way that Alex Garland does sci-fi in general. He's always willing to take risks. Sometimes they don't always hit with everyone. But, man, I've read Annihilation. That's a weird book to read. And he managed to make that work as a movie in a way that, like, made sense and still managed to, like, capture the ambiguity of what was going on and look just stunning. And Devs is just such an ambitious undertaking with so many different, like, philosophical questions that it brings up. And, like, the concept of, like, free will and, like, autonomy and just different things like that. And it's so good. It's very good. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's such a good show. Also, just some great performances from Allison Pill and Nick Offerman in particular on this show. But yeah, it's stunning. It's stunning to think about. It's stunning to look at. It's a really complex story that holds up to parsing it and picking it apart. So, I don't know. There's a reason it's so high on all our lists.
One thing I will mention just to add, since we had it all up really high, is Sonoya Mizuno. I hope to say her name. The actress who plays Lily. She was also in all of Alex Garland's previous stuff.
Yeah.
She plays the humanoid in Annihilation, who fights against Natalie Portman.
Yeah.
She plays the one who dances with, what's his name, in Ex
Oscar
Machina.
Isaac, yeah.
She was even one of the dancers in La La Land, so it's really dope to see her get some lines.
Yeah.
To see her play a human being also as well. And I thought she killed it.
Yeah.
Thought she did a
was
fantastic
really
job
good.
with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool to see her get a more central role here on Devs. So, yeah, Devs is one of our favorites, but a bunch of shows showed up on all of our lists. Let us know what your favorite TV shows of 2020 so far are. But that's about it for this week's show. You can catch more from me, Zach Shevich, on Twitter, Letterboxd, or Instagram at Zshevich. That's ZSHEV, as in the V in Devs, which might not be a V, ICH. And Amanda, where can people catch more from you?
You can find me on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, all of the above, and probably a lot of other stuff at Amanda the Jedi.
You can find me at the A to Z Show, Let Me Explain, over on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Letterboxd, whatever world we're in this time loop that we're caught in. But and anyone here on the Intercut podcast.
Yeah, you can listen to every episode of the Intercut podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, or your favorite podcatcher. I like Overcast. And then make sure you're subscribed not just to the audio podcast, but to the video feed as well on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/IntercutPod, where you can catch our bright, smiling faces as we break down the latest in entertainment. Please leave a comment, like the videos, consider heading over to iTunes to leave us a 5-star review, like our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages. All of them are at IntercutPod to get updates throughout the week from Art, from me, from Amanda, from all the guests that we feature here on Intercut. Thanks again for tuning in, and until next time, sometimes life's a bitch, and then you keep on living.
What's that one from?
That's also BoJack Horseman.
Oh, is that BoJack?